Hey peeps, Mike Leverage here. Another old fart who's been curating a crazy eclectic collection of music since 1967 and having nothing better to do, decided to talk about some bands that people aren't really talking about all that much, or I don't hear people talking about all that much, but that I think deserve a little more attention, perhaps. Anyway, today I'm going to talk about a quirky new wave experimental art rock dance pop band from Canada known as Martha and the Muffins, or sometimes M&M. They were formed in 1977 in Toronto at the Ontario College of Art when a guy named David Miller approached fellow guitar player Mark Gain about starting a band. David knew Martha Johnson, who played keyboards, and Mark's brother Tim played drums. And Martha Johnson knew Carl Finkel on bass. And so they started this band and came up with the name Martha and the Muffins. And after a few gigs, I guess, David decided he didn't really want to be in the band. He just wanted to be the sound man. And so he was replaced by the Gain brothers' high school friend, Martha Ladley, who played keyboards and trombone and did some background singing and stuff. And they started the band, and they continued the band, rather, and started digging around. And eventually, Andy Haas on saxophone got absorbed from the scene sort of into the band, and they started gigging around Toronto. In 1978 they put out a single called Insect Love, which was kind of a typical punk sort of single with accompanying insect noises and the like. Nice little tune. You can see it on YouTube or hear it on YouTube. And this resulted in them getting signed to Din Disc Records, which was a subsidiary of Virgin Records. And so they ended up going over to England and working with Mike Howlett, the bass player from Gong, and they recorded their first album, Metro Music, over there, and it was released in early 1980. This album contains their probably best known song, the lead-off single, Echo Beach, which when I was in my cubicle in the early 80s, an office clerk, bored, as it says in the song, this is where I first heard this song. It also has Paint by Number Heart, Saigon, Indecision, which is my theme song of sorts. Beautiful song. Also Terminal Twilight, Hide and Seek, Monotone, Sinking Land, Revenge Against the World, and Cheesies and Gum, an ode to, yes, cheesies and gum. So I think this is like a perfect new wave record. Every song is great. I think these are like the songs that they've been playing in the clubs, of Toronto for years, and they've been honed to perfection. This is a great album, and if you see it in stores or anywhere, I think you should really pick it up. You would behoove yourself not to. Anyway, so Echo Beach was a huge hit. Went to number 5 in Canada, and I think it did almost equally well maybe not in the United States. This is like the only song that they're really known by. Paint by Number Heart also hit the charts in Canada, went to like number 20. And so they went back to work. Oh, here's this is the lyric sheet from Metro Music, which contains a picture of the band here. Quite the motley crew, and a fine band if there ever was one. Yes, indeed. Anyway, so they went back to work with Mike Howlett, and they put out a second album in 1980. In October of 1980, they came out with Trance and Dance. which is a fine album. The cover was done by Martha Ladley. A very nice cover. Very artsy. In fact, they pretty much did the covers of all their albums. Somebody did the covers of all their albums. After all, they were formed in art school. And so this album is a lot looser than the first album. You know, it's got it has more gongisms in a way coming out, because I think these songs were more fresh, you know, like they were created in the studio as they were going along or something like that. They were more loose, and like the saxophone highlights and stuff and all the things that were going on, you know, they sound kind of like Talking Heads or the B-52s or stuff like that. And it's really cool stuff, really quirky, like Suburban Dream, Luna Park, Wazizo, which is about like the Asian experience in Canada, and Teddy the Dink, Symptomatic Love, Primal Weekend. You know, this is all like really cool stuff, new wave, experimental, arty kind of stuff. They're not afraid to, like, you know, stretch the boundaries of music and stuff like that and do real cool stuff. Halfway Through the Week, Am I On? Very cool song. They do a cover of Motorbiking by Chris Spedding. About Insomnia is a cool song. Be Blasé, very nice song. And Trance and Dance is a really cool kind of an extended, what it says, it's a trance. It's like cool stuff. All the rhythm on this, like, they are definitely a dance-oriented band. You could dance to anything on most of their albums. And they're really cool. And I think if you see this album in stores, and when I see it, it's usually pretty cheap. It's very worth picking up, because this is classic stuff. It's like experimental, arty stuff, produced by Mike Howlett, and yeah, it's cool. You should get it. Well, after that album, what's her name? Martha Ladley decides to quit. And so she moves on. She stays around in England. And she plays with the Associates over there at some point. And eventually she ends up in Robert Palmer's backing band. And eventually ends up back in Canada as a design professor at the Ontario School of Art. Full circle. Also, Carl Finkel leaves at this point and is replaced by one Jocelyn Lanoy, who, if that name sounds familiar, her brother at that time was starting a little studio in Toronto. And so, you know, the second album hadn't been done as well as the first, so they decided to try out her brother's studio. And so their third album, This Is the Ice Age, was produced by Daniel Lanoy along with the band in Toronto. And this is a very fine album, one of my favorite albums of all time, I would say. It's kind of very experimental. I mean, they're doing treatments, like there's layers of stuff. I mean, there's, you know, keyboard sequencers, and there's cool guitar parts from Mark Gain, and Jocelyn's bass is like great throughout, and it's got, you know, all kinds of effects and cool things happening. It's arty and quirky. They're playing with song structures, and yet they have kind of a cool sense of humor, you know, like the songs are like really cool and all danceable. The rhythms in this are really great. First song, Swimming, is like, you know, we're afraid to call it love, let's call it swimming. And then Woman Around the World at Work is a great song, an anti-war song kinda. Casualties of Glass is very cool. Boy Without Filters, Jet Seems Slower in London Skies. They have a habit of putting these like cool atmospheric instrumental songs on their albums, like one Purr. Like second side, This Is the Ice Age, very cool song. One Day in Paris, like a very cool song about Paris, like kind of romantic. It reminds me almost of 10cc's One Night in Paris. But anyway, then You Sold the Cottage, which is a very cool song about, you know, selling the family cottage on the lake and stuff. That's very cool. Then they have 300 Years of Chemistry, which is kind of a like experimental thing that goes into a new wave thing to end the album. And this is like an awesome album. If you see this in the store, you should pick this up. I mean, I don't know if they're getting stuff from Daniel Lanois or Daniel Lanois is picking stuff up from them, but stuff that they're doing on this album are comparable to what like Talking Heads are doing, to what Eno is doing on his albums and stuff. I mean, this is a great album. If you find it, you should get it back. Anyway, and after that, I guess they get dropped by Din Disc, but they get picked up by Current Records, which is a subsidiary of RCA in Canada. And they continue with Daniel Lanois, and they put out this here album. Well, they did have a couple of singles off the last one that went into the top 20. Woman Around the World at Work and Swimming hit number 10 and number 16 respectively in Canada, though they were probably mostly unheard of in the USA, crazy as that may sound. Then after that, still with Daniel, they put up, Nick left, Mark's brother Tim left the drum chair and he was replaced by Nick Kent on this album, Dance Park, also produced by Daniel Lanois. And this is also a great album. Very dancey, a lot of rhythm stuff going on, and layers and cool textures and vocal things, vocal points and counterpoints, and just cool stuff, you know, things that remind you a lot of Talking Heads or Eno or things like that, you know. And a lot of things on here I can hear echoes that Daniel Lanois will bring back in some stuff that U2 does and stuff like that. This is a freaking great album. Here's the band in the dance park enjoying themselves. And the songs are like Dance Park, which is great, Obedience, World Without Borders, Walking into Walls, Sins of Children, Several Styles of Blonde Girls Dancing, awesome song, Boys in the Bushes, What People Do for Fun, and their Whatever Happened to Radio Valve Road, their atmospheric, instrumental, cool thing. I mean, this album is great. If you see it, you should pick it up, and yeah, you will enjoy it immensely. The singles from this album were Dance Park, which made it to 31, but this was a fine album. After that, in 1984, this album came out, Mystery Walk. At this point, it was mostly, this says Eminem on it because mostly it's Mark Gain and Martha Johnson on this. Still with Daniel Lanois. They had some other players on here like Yogi Horton and Tinker Barfield on drums and bass respectively, along with other people. I think Randy or the Breckers play on here, do the saxophone bits, as Andy Haas had left a couple albums ago. And but this is a really cool album, you know. This had another one of their hits, Black Stations, White Stations, which you might have heard. I think they played it on MTV and stuff. And a lot of cool stuff on here. This is very experimental and very cool. And good songs like, let's see if I could read the thing. Like Black Stations, White Stations, Cooling the Medium was a very cool song. Come out and dance. Like always great rhythms and good dancing on these songs, even though there's experimental stuff going on and like different layers and intertwining things and song structures being played with. You can always dance to it. I Start to Stop is good. Big Trees, this is very cool. We love it. In Between Sleep and Reason, great song. Garden in the Sky, Nation of Followers, Alibi Room, and Rhythm of Life. Great songs. This is definitely worth picking up if you see it in your journeys. Produced by Daniel Lanois. Very good song in 1984. Alright. After that, the next album is produced by David Lord, who had worked with Peter Gabriel and XTC and stuff like that. And this album came out in 1985, still as Eminem. The World is a Ball. Again, the cover is their own concept. Very cool. And this song is a little more, I would say, sterile. Not as organic as the other ones. It's more like 80s kind of new wave, dance pop kind of thing. Still has some experimental stuff in it. Still has their sense of humor and everything in it. And it's a good album. Maybe not as adventurous or dangerous as some of their earlier albums, but still very good stuff. Songs like The World is a Ball, I Watch, I Wait, Watching the Boys Fall Down, Only You, By the Waters of Babylon, Song in My Head, Don't Jump the Gun, Stuck on the Grid, Someone Else's Shoes. As a matter of fact, good album. It's around. If you see it, I'd say it's worth picking up. At the very least, you can dance to it. They always have great rhythm and everything like that. And then there was kind of a break after that album in 1985. And we don't see another album from them until Modern Lullaby in 1992. I don't have that album, so I can't really tell you much about it other than it was produced by Mark and Martha, and I'm sure that, it has their usual stamp of quirky experimental art rock stuff with a fine beat to dance to. I know if I see it, I'll pick it up, and you could do that too. After that, actually, in 1995, Martha Johnson got a Juno Award for the Best Children's Album for an album called Songs from the Treehouse under the name Martha that I'm sure Mark had a little something to do with, but that's kind of cool. If you see that, pick that up. And then 2010, Martha and the Muffins, that name was back. They put out an album called Delicate, produced by David Petrell. I never heard that, but I'm sure if it's by Mark and Martha, I'm sure it's got some good, interesting stuff on it. As well as in 2013, Martha Johnson put out a solo album called Solo One, produced by Mark and Martha. And Unheard, I'd recommend that as well. I mean, I think these guys were a pretty cool band. I mean, I have no idea how they are regarded in Canada and what esteem they are held, but I think they were a pretty cool band. I really love them. They played interesting music with all kind of quirky little things in it, and they had a great sense of humor, and you could dance to it, man. It's really cool stuff, and check them out. See you later. Have a wonderful. Bye.